the amount of effort that it takes to maintain a skill versus the amount of effort it takes to grow a skill is like 1/10.
Welcome back to Aura. I'm Kyle, and in this video, we're reacting to the regret you don't see coming in your 20s and 30s. And this is on the Chris Williamson podcast interviewing Alex Hormozi. So basically, they're going over big things everyone should know going into their 20s and 30s and the impact that it has on the rest of your life. With no further ado, let's jump into this.
Live them up and become an underskilled 30-year-old, or you work them up and become an underlived 30-year-old. You just have to figure out which you'd rather be, accept the trade-offs, and know that there are no do-overs.
And door 3, if you consider work, life, then you get to do both. That one ruffled a lot of feathers.
Wait, because people look back on their 20s and realize that they are one or the other.
All right, I'm going to lean into this. I am okay. I had a conversation with my team about this, and I said, I am okay being a beacon of relentless hard work. I'm okay being the guy who says, fuck your mental health. I'm okay with it because I've given it a lot of thought. I think that the other side is wildly overrepresented, and I'm willing to sit on the logical extreme because I think it will help more people. And there are more people that I have met in my life who are dissatisfied by their live it up 20s than dissatisfied by their work it up 20s. Because most of the time in your 20s, you have no idea what you want. But knowing what you need to do to work and move ahead is fairly straightforward. And so you can take the known and make progress on the one that you have high confidence that you can make progress on. And then along the way, gain perspective on what are the things that are actually important to you in your life. And you may find out often that there are far fewer of those things than you really originally thought, because what you thought live them up in your 20s was actually your mom and your 2 homies who are both mediocre, and you don't care about their opinion now when you're 30 anyways. But what a waste of a life it would have been to, quote, live up your mom's dream or your friend's dreams to then only get to your 30s and realize you didn't live it up and you also didn't work it up. And now you have neither.
Boom. All right. So dropping some bombs right off the start. And rhetorical question. Would you rather live it up in your 20s or work it up in your 20s? I really tried to do both on and off personally. And as far as what Alex Hormozi saying is that from the people he's seen, they're more satisfied when they work it up. I'm definitely more satisfied in my own case for the times that I was working hard, right? And I've been to some crazy concerts, been on some awesome adventures, and I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, I'm more satisfied with the hard work that I did, especially going after what was most important to me at the time, right? And personally, I do think the balance of working it up and living it up for most people is actually somewhere on the spectrum, like in between those two ends, right? And Alex Hormozi is like the freaking Michael Jordan of remote business right now. And if anyone knows like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, they're absolutely obsessed. It's like they live for one fucking reason, is to be great at what they do, right? And personally, most people I know are not like that. Most of my friends these days and the people I know that succeed the most are kind of towards that work it up spectrum, right? And Alex Hormozi's like about as high as you could freaking get on the work it up spectrum. So yeah, but at the same time, I am more satisfied with the work that I put in than the play that I put in, but I still like to create some space for having a good time here and there as well.
I think a lot about, the first day that I sat down at university, my first ever seminar, I sat next to my what would be future business partner for 15 years. So I'm skint. I say to him, I've spent all of my money partying during Freshers Week. The first week, I'd spent my entire maintenance loan, which was supposed to be food and everything else for the rest of the term until fucking Christmas. And it's September the 29th.
It's a big week.
It was a good week, which I could not survive now. And I think back to sort of the time that I spent and the endless hours. Like, I'm not kidding. And I don't reflect that much on the club promo stuff, maybe to my detriment. I should do it more. I've spent between 5,000 and 10,000 hours stood on the front door of nightclubs. I've spent at least 3,000 hours stood on the front door of the same nightclub, only on Saturdays, right? I didn't miss 202 Saturdays in a row. I took 4-day holidays from Sunday to Thursday so that I could come back to come and do this thing. And I look back at my 20s and I think, was that, how much was living, how much was accumulating skills? And the grass is always greener with this, because in hindsight, you think, well, you imagine that you could have gone back and still accumulated all of the insights and the skills that you really value in yourself. That would have still happened, but that you would have got to maybe have more variety, or you would have maybe the fun or the whatever the thing. And when I look, for me, with my constitution, at what I value most in myself, almost all of those things have been accumulated by having a 20s and now a 30s that has been dedicated to work it up, not to live it up, to 4-day holidays in between those things. Now, remembering that now is not forever, I think, is really important. Again, you're on the outlier right-hand end of the distribution for work. Most people are going to pull themselves back across in terms of balance between work and play. But you can periodize what you're doing right now. You can accumulate all of that work, all of that experience, all of that explore time to work out. Actually, I don't like doing admin stuff. It turns out I'm really great at creative, or I really don't like traveling. It turns out I'm really great at routine. All of those things. There's like a buy-in. You remember CrossFit? You do a buy-in thing. It's a 1-mile run, and then it's this workout. You have to do that buy-in. Let's say everyone has to do that buy-in. Doing that buy-in when you're 25 is way easier than doing that buy-in when you're 40. Right? I finally work out who I am in the world, because you start to accumulate all of these better directional assistances. You're moving in a more directionally accurate way earlier, which means that you make more progress over the long term. So in retrospect, I'm glad that I did work it up 20s, and I'm glad that I did work it up 30s as well.
So I'll say two things that might be helpful. One is, you obviously know my stance if you're listening to this on work-life balance, but maybe as a concession for you, your work-life balance obsession may just be too narrowly focused on the present and not extended into seasons. And so you can have work-life balance where I work for 3 years and then I have a more chill year. And I think that most people think about work-life in terms of their split of the day rather than their split of the year or the decade.
So
I think that you can have a much better outcome on both sides if you were to split it up on a longer time horizon.
So good. I mean, everybody knows what it's like to...
Yeah, and that's another thing that I totally agree with, and I totally have seen as well, is that just because if you choose to work it up, you're going crazy, right? You're doing 60 hours, 80 hours, or even 100 hours. And I've done 100-hour weeks for like a year straight almost before. Doesn't mean that you need to do it for the rest of your life. And sometimes that could be the exact thing that can put you in a position to have the best live it up session you've ever had before. Like one of my hiatuses, right? Like there was a year I made over $250,000 in commissions after like 3 years out of like grinding my face off in sales, right? And all of a sudden, I was dating this gorgeous lady, right? And my friends were throwing yacht parties and like just went and lived it up, right? And probably overdid it again because I literally, my income took a dip and then I just had to go straight back into the work it up phase. But that was probably the most fun year of my life so far, right? And I had so much fun and for a bit of a season, right? And then I feel like it still can kind of, in a way, inspire me to this day. But it did dip my income, right? And then kind of put me in a position where I kind of had to reset when I really like went to the live it up side of the spectrum. So once again, you could live your life in seasons, right? For this stretch of a few months or a few years, like I'm going to work my butt off so I can put myself in the position to travel, to start a family, or just like invest, right? To give myself a cushion, whatever it is. And then you can always go back into a live it up phase or sprinkle it in here and there as well.
To go through it every January, intense period of diet. I fucked it at Christmas again. Too much chocolate, too much dinner. And you go, okay, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to work hard. I'm going to focus on my diet and my training for a while. And then I'm going to hold those gains for a period. Or I'm going to build a business. Okay, my health's probably going to take a hit for a little while. Or I just got out of a relationship. I need to go dating. All right, well, I'm probably not going to be able to spend so much time at work. Or maybe I'm going to be sleeping later. So my fitness is going to knock off a little bit. All of these things happen for periods of time. And yeah, remembering that now isn't forever and that's such a great frame, like a hyperbolic discounting and inability to be able to imagine that this is not the way that it's always going to be. And that's good. For good things and for bad things. This isn't the way it's always going to be. So I better enjoy this win. This isn't the way it's always going to be. So I better not get too disheartened by this loss. You will come back. That's the beautiful thing about this sort of hedonic renormalizing. You go, good things aren't as good as you think they are. Bad things aren't as bad as you think they are.
So if you use that extended frame as a way to approach different types of goals, I'll break a very standard one, which is that people measure the amount of calories that they need to eat per day. But very few people measure the amount of calories they need to eat per week. And so people will blow the day and say, well, screw it, I messed up today. I might as well have a pizza on top of it because I had chocolate and I went off my diet or whatever. But if you have a weekly outlook even, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I can have a pizza tonight. I'll just like skip most of my food tomorrow besides protein. Or I'll have a wedding weekend and know that this whole week I'm going to be light. And so I have, 13,000 calories for the next 7 days that I can work my way through, which gives me a tremendous amount of flexibility. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that the further you extend the time horizon, the more flexible you can be with your achievement of it, as long as you only get the few things that matter most. And so it allows you to focus and prioritize on those few things that move the needle, rather than be overly obsessive on such a small, narrow window of time that is irrelevant anyways.
So there's a coordination problem that happens when you try to balance too quickly. When you try to have a little bit of fun and a little bit of play and a little bit of fun and a little bit of play, whether it's task switching, whether it's just sort of the cognitive effort of your personality, like your identity is I'm gym guy for 3 months. Right, yeah. Hooray. I'm work guy for 3 months. Hooray. But when it's I'm gym guy this morning, I'm work guy this afternoon, it's tough. It's tough to do that. So yeah, kind of the same as you get diseconomies of scale as a business grows because there's more interconnectedness and communication between each person, the more yous there are going on inside. So this is an argument for sort of aggressive periodizing.
I'm a hyper proponent of one single narrow focus. I'll define 2 more terms since the audience didn't ask for it. Sadness is a perceived lack of options. It's why it feels like hopelessness, because you don't know what to do. You don't know what options are available. You see none, which is why it feels like there's no way out. Anxiety is many options but no priorities, which is why you feel scattered but you can't decide. They feel very different, but fundamentally, those are the difference in the conditions that make people feel like they're anxious or they feel like they're sad. And so when we're working through what you were just talking about with, okay, I want to be gym guy and I also want to be work guy, we have many options, but a lack of priorities. And so we have anxiety over the fact that we're not making progress on any of them because we have not been able to say, this comes first. And so if we think about what...
Yeah, and then I want to add something, especially to the sadness part. I definitely am totally in alignment with where he's going with anxiety so far, but on the sadness part, in psychology, they define depression as prolonged sadness, like being sad for an extended period of time. And then in physics, they define depression as pressing something down, compressing it into a smaller size and like holding it in an area and like just pushing it down, right? To depress something is like push it down, and usually to like increase the pressure of it at the same time. So my favorite description of just depression is in general is pushing down sadness. Like you have this pain, right? From what I've seen, all negative emotions are associated with pain, right? And pain is pretty much like you're losing something that you love. It could be like the use of your body or a relationship that mattered a lot to you, right? Like pain is like either you're losing something that you love or there's like the threat of losing something that you love, right? And the thing is that like if we just sit in that, right, then a lot of times it could just get stuck and we feel horrible and it's like hard to move and we're just feeling bad all the time. But at the same time, with sadness, getting into motion, like literally just moving your body, getting outside, having anyone to talk to. It could be a friend, a family member, a therapist, someone that you like and trust that you can actually open up to. Like getting out and doing things and getting that movement keeps it from being stuck down in place, right? And then this is where I think Alex is probably going with it. But as far as for me with anxiety, right, I noticed like I'm the type of guy who has so many freaking dreams and visions and ideas and things that I want to freaking create, right? But a lot of times, like, let me just show you my freaking to-do list right now, right? Like, it's like a page long, but I put it priorities, right? 1, 2, 3. Like, we need to do these ones no matter what, right? And the thing is that when you have too many options, right, it's overwhelming, right? There's too much going on and it's stressful and it can lead to just that state of confusion. And the second that you decide where the priority is, where to start, in what order, then the anxiety, I've noticed, drops, right, instantaneously. Another thing that really helps is a deep breath out. That's more physical. But as far as like a thing that you could do is like deciding what's most important and then breaking that down to next steps, which I bet is where Alex is going with this. But yeah, essentially that I've found to be an antidote for anxiety. And then movement, getting out and doing things and finding people you can communicate, right? And taking action and just getting out of yourself, right? Out of that pushed down, depressed, stuck in place state for sadness, and just getting outside, doing things, trying a new hobby, anything that gets you fucking moving and doing something new. It's hard to be sad, especially I find anytime I'm working out while listening to music that I like, I can't fucking be sad. I might get angry or something if someone's like doing some stupid thing, you know, but I can't be freaking sad when I'm moving that much. So hope that helps.
Priority means, it means prior. It comes before everything else. And what I think a lot of people have a hard time doing is being okay with saying no and saying, okay, I will allow myself to just not get fatter rather than get fitter during this period. And what's interesting about most skills is that the amount of effort that it takes to maintain a skill versus the amount of effort it takes to grow a skill is like 1/10 the amount of effort. And so this is where the effort arbitrage is so important in terms of allocation. And so if you do a 4 out of 10 on 10 things, you will make progress on none. You will make the same amount of progress that you could have made if you just did 1 out of 10, which is none. You just don't regress. But the extra 3 points that you save on the 9, you could put on one other item and have a 10 out of 10 or a 13 out of 10 in effort. And then after every periodized chunk of time, have a big W or win that you can look back on and say, I did that, and therefore I am. And so I think that that's how you step up the mountain of progress when you're trying to work on many different skills, quote, at the same time. It's just that the at the same time is over a year, not over a day.
George told me this while we were on mushrooms in Nashville. Fucking brilliant. So I'm there watching.
That's the hook.
Got to get people in the door.
Yeah.
I'm there, 4th of July. George turned to me and he said, general ambition gives you anxiety. Specific ambition gives you direction. There is nothing more anxiety inducing than I want to be better and I don't know what at and I don't know how. Like, just think about that for a second. Sort of embody that. It's sort of a chasing. It's a lean in, and it's tight, and sort of your shoulders are up, and there's a ringing in your ears, and you have no idea. It's like a threat. You've heard a noise in the forest, and you have no idea where it's come from. Specific ambition gives you direction.
And I think the concept of specific versus general ambition ladders up to bundled terms. I want this big thing, but I haven't broken that thing down into what I can actually do. Once you get specific into the actions, you don't have a lot of anxiety because you can see what is required in order to get it. And so to circle the loop back on sadness, which is, because some people who are listening to this may be sad, so this is for you. To get out of sadness, and I've been sad many times in my life, the thing that's helped me get out of it is realizing that a perceived lack of options is what causes sadness, not a lack of options, a perceived lack of options, which means that all I have to do is figure out what I need to do, and figuring it out becomes the option. And so then I have clarity on the one thing that I need to do to pull myself out of this moment of sadness, which is, oh, I just have to figure out what to do. And that is how I get, at least for me, have gotten out of my sadder periods.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by...
Alrighty, so yeah, hope y'all enjoyed that video. And basically, just one more dive into like the sadness versus the anxiety topic. Once again, Alex Hormozi says sadness is a perceived lack of options. Personally, I just, for what I've seen, see it as just sitting with pain, right? And deciding to do nothing, right? Basically. And for me, it's like, I've never seen anyone sad who's super active, right? I've been sad plenty of times in my life. And like, that's my go-to antidote is to move, right? I like going to the gym. Some people might like sports or just going for walks. I like going for walks too. Yeah. So personally, I don't know anyone who's moving around active who's sad. I could see it maybe get angry or frustrated or anxious sometimes, but not sad. And then as far as the anxiety one, so Alex kind of tapped on it a little bit right there, but yeah, just kind of deciding what the priority is. And priority is like what's most important, what's most valuable, what's going to make the biggest impact, right? Or like, what do you care about most with your life or the direction of your businesses, right? Deciding just basically what's most important, but also if you know the general direction you want to go, as Chris was saying, like general ambition creates anxiety while specific ambition, I don't even know what he said, create success or something like that. But long story short, when you're specific, the anxiety goes away about like what needs to get done, right? And I actually dive into this in depth in my video about time management, right? For free on YouTube. But when you're specific about what big milestones need to be done to hit that goal, and then you're like, what's the most important next milestone? Then you break that into action steps, right? What's the next action that I can take, right? So you can have 5-year goals, 1-year goals, yada, yada. But I have that, but I also have action steps. So every single day, I can just look over the to-do list. What's number 1? Okay, what's number 2? What's number 3, right? And when I have put action steps, got to all the way from big term, long-term goals to short-term goals to just check points, right? Or targets or like things, milestones that need to happen for those goals to happen. And then break that all the way down into action steps. Then next thing you know, the anxiety just takes a huge dip, right? And also, like I said, super practical, like literally the way that every human being does this every day of their life, whether they know it or not, to help deal with stress. This is like one of the body's go-to ways to deal with stress is a long exhale, scientifically proven to literally calm you down in seconds. It's like everyone's born with this. Everyone does this. Most people just don't do it knowingly, but that's another way to just chill yourself out super fast. It's just slow your breathing and exhale. So hope you loved the video. Hope you got some valuable feedback. from this. And yeah, let's run it up.